All right, we're live. How's that sound now? I'm using a different mic. I'm using my actual inbuilt laptop microphone, so hopefully that works. So hopefully we get some audio. Hey man, is it Xenon? Xenon? Enon? Is it X silent? Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank God, man. That's stressful on the nervous system trying to figure out technicalities when I just want to. It's a good test. It's a good test. Just go with it. Thanks for helping with the discernment of it. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're live. So for the recording, because I'm probably going to delete the other two. yeah, it's full of stress. Well, this is perfect though, because it's like the decision, right? So this is like with anything in life, with any spiritual attunement, is like how we relate to in the actual moment of stress itself. So the ruminatory mind would want to descend into chaos and self-reflective into an infinite hall of mirrors of like, why is this happening? Like, what's going on? Like, why me? Yada, yada, yada. But that's gone. That moment's been and gone. It's just here now. And just let it go. Not to like bypass the sensations or anything like that, but to just to be with the ebbs and flows. So anyway, how awesome! What a gift! Thank you, universe. Thank you for giving me that. Like it's like you think you're gonna talk about emotion work, balancing and letting go. You're gonna talk about that, bro. All right, here's like 50 technical difficulties. Here's that's awesome. Yeah, just grateful for that. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to talk about specifically around emotional integration, letting go, and yeah, I'm glad the mic's working. Oh, Jamal Fati, yeah, you know Alan and Jocko. Get up and get after it. I remember being in that phase, like self-help phase. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got Alan Watts, David Goggins, Jocko, Tim Ferriss, Joseph Goldstein. So these are people I was like really into multiple years ago. Yeah. So awesome to speak with you guys. Hey, like being behind a YouTube video doesn't really have that level of engagement. So, and it's just so good to see people like Tia. I know that, yeah, just so happy that you're here. A lot of you guys I haven't really met, so I'm glad you're here too, that we can actually have a conversation rather than just watch a YouTube video and then move on to the next one, you know? Yeah, exactly. You got to get up at 3 a.m. or you're not a man. Go for a 100-mile run, right? David Goggins is an interesting one, right? Because he's like, that man is like his like strength and his willpower is unbelievable, but to the degree of like, you can only project, right? You can only project onto him what you see, and who knows what his internal state is. But to be able to access and do 100-mile runs without any training shows that he's definitely got some degree of equanimity. But I think about like the Buddha, you know, and like ascetic practices, right? He ultimately realized that he didn't need asceticism to realize who and what he was. It was just here. It's just in the mundane, like the realization of your feet on the floor is just as complete as the feeling of transcendence and self-transcendence you experience when running an 100-mile marathon and you've broken through the threshold. So I don't know. I draw from his willpower, his strength, but yeah, anyway. So on topic, so emotion integration with spiritual work. I was just saying that I had a moment yesterday where I just went outside and just followed my impulse to do that and just sat in stillness. And it's amazing how things just emerge from the ether. And this sort of like download experience occurred where some shifts have been occurring for me lately, I think, where there's a more of a shift away in recent moments and recent experience to doing like heavy emotion work, right? So that's been a big hallmark of my experience. That's been a big hallmark of my experience. And now it's just so much more like dialed back. And the lightness, the quality of lightness to experience is palatable. And a diagram popped into mind that is very like makeshift and very loose that looked like this. So I thought I might walk through it as a bit of a baseline. Just respond to some comments in a sec, just so I can get a bit of a flow happening here. But so I think what leads us to spirituality, right? We have this, there's a sense of suffering. There's a sense of pain. Like for me, it was strong anxiety, really difficult moment-to-moment experience of angst and resistance and doubt. And that led to naturally pushing, like going into self-help. So all the guys behind me, right? So like Jocko, people like Jordan Peterson, which then fed into like getting involved with psychology work, men's work. And there was a certain like reward mechanism for that, right? So I could notice shifts in my experience where I was becoming more courageous. And there was like this carrot on a stick of like, look, if you keep doing this work, you're going to find the solution to, you're going to get somewhere. But I noticed that the value of psychology work was definitely there, right? So feeling into painful experiences with the support of community and the support of, like mentors, YouTube videos, and there's release that comes from that. There's like integration, right? So that could be in this diagram focusing on you can't really see it, so I'll explain it, but focusing on the manifestations of pain. So things like depressive feelings or things like shame, things like anger, even like narcissistic tendencies, if that's in our makeup, or anxiety, right? So you can focus on the content. But I started doing, and that you could say that's form. That's form. If we talk about form and emptiness, so form, all the things that are arising in experience, right? But it seems that the more that you fixate on form, if you make that the sentinel thing that you orient all of your attention into, and you do self-help workshop after self-help workshop, and you just don't stop on that path, then you're sort of reifying that narrative. You're reifying that identity. You're like buying into the story. And if there's like quote unquote 2 layers to this, and there's almost like a membrane, this line here, it's like a membrane between the two with form and emptiness. Until I think that we start, and this has been my experience, so I'm speaking from experience, is that the more that we then attune to spiritual truths like Christ consciousness or God consciousness or awareness, who we are between the thoughts and experience, the gap, and we abide in that, we start to realize that, well, am I even all of the content that I've been processing? Am I even the depression? Am I even the anxiety? Am I even the anger? Am I even the shame? Like, what if I wasn't that? And you start to feel that in your bones. You start, that truth starts to permeate through the cracks, like breaking the glass. And it really starts to like illuminate the mental fixations of like, man, I'm putting so much mental energy into the process of healing myself. It's like it's this project that I'm working on that's I could keep working on it forever and ever. That becomes illuminated through the attunement to who and what we are, right? When you realize and you decide that your expansiveness, that you don't need to buy into self-limitation anymore, you're no longer focusing on the tendrils. So like it's like seaweed or something, right? So like here's the ground of being, who and what we are, the context in which all of this content is arising. Shame, anxiety, anger, depression. If we keep working on that, coming in with our like blade and shearing off all the anxious tendencies and all that with emotional processing, without acknowledging the ground of being, God consciousness, which has inherent qualities of like joy, happiness, love, humility, integrity, and courage to go into the unknown, because then a lot of that stuff can become this like, it's like this mental fog that we're looking through at the world of trying to fix our experience. But these two things aren't separate. And I think that's why teachers like people like Angelo Dilullo recommend, recognize who and what you are first. Recognize I am by de-identifying from thoughts. Notice thoughts arising and passing, and notice that you are the gap underneath that, because with that foundation and that attunement to that, we're not caught in the weeds. So if we fixate, but here's the thing though, if we fixate too much in that, and we use intuition to know which one to attune to, man, this is like so multifaceted, it's hard to describe. This is my just off the cuff attempt to. But if we attune too hard into like the mental space of like letting go of who and what we take ourselves to be, without addressing the anxiety, without addressing the anger, the depression, the maladaptive behaviors, the aggression, whatever it is, then we almost like disembody ourselves from the body. But if we fixate too much in the other end, then we get so focused on healing that we don't experience the qualities of joy, happiness, love, humility, and integrity and expansion that are just like almost like the inherent built-in qualities. So the marriage of those two, it's like a membrane between them that becomes more permeable. And if we fixate too hard in either direction, in emptiness or form, that membrane becomes like tightens up and the holes solidify. So there's no breathing space and there's no flow between the two, between masculine and feminine. And then, so the challenge is, with using intuition as the compass, right? Our intuition knows when we're fixating, when we're like projecting onto other people how they need to be, or like whatever. It's probably coming from a place of lack. But if we attune to our own instinct, we know when we're fixating. That's why people use terms like the Advaita Vedanta police, right? Because if someone comes in and comments on a YouTube video or something and says like, why are you focusing on trauma? There's nothing to do. There's no one to do it. It's probably because they're rejecting doing trauma work within themselves, and they're acting out of fear to meet that, to maintain that view that they're looking through the world at without even noticing that it's a view. But if you can flow between the two with a permeable membrane in that they're not separate, that's a beautiful place to be. So let me comment. So Jamal Fati said, I love Goggins. It's difficult to follow him though. He talks a lot about the disciplining of your mind and seeing the mind as something that isn't you. And it's something, I think it resonates, but it's a bit angry, right? So you're saying that he's sort of, like fixating on that. Yeah, yeah, it's sort of like rejecting a part of experience, maybe. So, Xenon Weeb S, you said, did you have heart racing, anxiety related symptoms before going on the meditation path, and how is it now? Yeah, so from direct experience, I did have heart racing anxiety. I would say that it was, um, hmm, how would I describe that? I had a lot of frozen emotion in the body, and sometimes that reached a point where um, there were moments where that bottled up and out, and I had things like panic attacks earlier on. But then as I developed in with meditation, that really softened. So like even if I was having heart racing anxiety, I was able to soften into it and allow it and just roll with the punches. So that capacity deepened through Vipassana, through meditation practices, through whatever, to where the experience now is, yes, there's still moments where stuff is coming up, there's still emotional material coming up, but it's underpinned with a sense of a deep knowing of who and what I am, and it has the capacity to dissolve, and it's just like it comes and it goes much more readily. But there's still certainly suffering in this experience that arises as somatic contractions, as conditioning comes up and out. But it's I don't know, it's so weird. It's like the emptiness quality. I can see the emptiness of it, and I know that I have an understanding of where it's going. So it's, but I mean, right now, the past couple of days, it's been very open and expansive, and that's great. Feels nice. I was thinking about doing a 10-day Vipassana retreat, Steven said. So do you recommend it? Yeah, I recommend it for sure. I think they're good. I would question you what you want to get out of it. What do you hope to get out of that experience? If your intuition is drawing you to that, I would go for it. Go for it. If you want to try a retreat, because here's what that question's sort of coming from, right? If it's not coming from your deepest instinct, it's sort of looking for some degree of complicity from me. And I'm not saying this is your fault or anything. We do this all the time. I probably still do this quite a bit with other people as well. But like intuition, you know what you want to do. So maybe do your due diligence. Is that how you say it? Due diligence? I can't say that. Due diligence, yeah. To look into the retreat yourself and maybe just like, but then stay deeply connected to your truth. Like, is that something that aligns for you deep down? Because even if I say no, don't do it, you're putting you're externalizing your deepest instinct onto me to look for an answer that you already know deep down. And even if I said yes, and you wanted to, and you had a deep down sense of no, then you're sort of like doubting yourself. So anyway, I would recommend it, generally speaking, as a good place to start for deeper spiritual maturation. But yeah, trust yourself, man. Listen deeply to your heart, to your deepest instinct, which comes from being in solitude, being in silence, just relaxing, just sitting in deep stillness, maybe in nature. Is this something that I could benefit from? Is this something that I need? And have that intention of discovering it for the benefit of all beings, for the benefit of the light, for the light, for the best possible outcome for yourself, and listen from that place. That's my advice on that. I feel extremely controlled by form. How do I stop reacting to it? How do I loosen its grip on me? Yeah, man, I know what you mean. Jamal Fati, I really empathize for you. Can you maybe tell me a bit more about how that's coming up for you, how that's showing up in daily life? If you feel, you don't have to go into too many specifics if you don't want to, but so what I'm hearing from that question is there's a lot of pain maybe in experience. There's a certain degree of suffering arising for you, and it's quite uncomfortable. And it's pretty strong and compelling. So I'll be curious to know how that's showing up for you. And I'll wait for your response on that, and then I'll answer this other question in the meantime. From Matasus K. Have you experienced any paranoid inner stories when you were going deep into your emotional work? Well, for me, when I see you say paranoid, it sort of communicates to me this like how can I say that? Like there's a turbulent storm of resistance going on, like I can't handle this, or like paranoid, maybe thinking like, is there someone outside of my house who's going to come in with a knife and get me or something, or maybe like, have I broken my brain? Have I gone too deep and broken my brain in this process, or something like that? To a degree, those thoughts have come up, but they've never been like really sticky for me. I always just have known that everything's impermanent and everything's coming up for a reason. And I've taken a very authentic, radically authentic approach with emotional processing, that I know that I have the capacity to handle it through finding help with other people, through getting support through things like YouTube videos. People like Angelo Dilullo, facilitators, have helped me on my path, where I now help people on their path. And yeah, I've never really felt deeply paranoid. I don't think that's ever taken over too much. So I happen to have a very negative mind. So this is this is Zenon. I happen to have a very negative mind talk, like in everything I do. Yeah. Being aware of thoughts help me filtering them, but I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to condition my mind to think positively. What's your advice? Yeah, man. So I hear you on that. Yeah. So with a lot of negative self-talk, that if you check in with your body, what's likely going on for you is you're experiencing emotional contractions. So maybe if you check in with your body right now, do you notice that negative thought spiral going on? Can you just attune to that? Can you just feel it in your body right now? You can tell me in the comments if this is something that you can actually connect to. I'd be curious to see how that's showing up for you. But when we have a lot of tension in the body, that often feeds into the thoughts. Yeah, you said yes. Okay. Yeah. And where do you feel that? Where do you feel that in the body right now? Can you describe, if you just do a body scan of your body? You just settle into the chair, just feel that you can handle everything in your experience. You have the capacity for everything in your experience, and just gently scan through your body. Where do you feel that? And this will feed into discussion that this conversation was about initially. Have an authenticity check-in as well. I notice, because I don't do lives very often, it's like the unknown for my body. There's a certain quality of tension that's built up as I speak. Feels like a little bit of inauthenticity coming through. So I'm just softening into that a little bit and just making space for that. Just butterfly sensations in my stomach mainly. Yeah, okay, yeah. So often when we have a bodily contraction, there's a whole bunch of self-reflective thoughts that co-opt that experience, right? Because when you're blissed out, you're walking on sunshine, when you feel relaxed, yeah, it's often feels quite nice, open, the thoughts skewed more toward positive experiences, maybe like just more pleasant experiences, generally speaking. So to actually get at those contractions or those bodily sensations, so that butterfly sensation in your stomach, there's a piece of just softening into that. Just really allow yourself to drop right into the heart of that sensation right now, butterfly sensations. Put your attention deeply into it so that it occupies all of your attention. And every time that you have a thought arise, butterfly sensation, this is too uncomfortable, I hate this experience, I don't want to feel this, you can sort of let your attention attune into the thought itself. Just drop right into the thought, and you can connect to the fact that thoughts themselves have a sort of energetic imprint. You can feel the thought arise. So what is that negative mind talk that you talked about? What are the thoughts saying? And you can even voice them out loud to yourself to get really clear on it. There's something about acknowledging them vocally that just seems to connect you more deeply to the energetic experience. You don't have to say it out loud, or you can just say it to yourself, like, I don't want to feel this. And then just bring your attention back to that sensation in your stomach with loving awareness, loving attention. And just rest as that. The more that you build capacity and open up to those sensations, the better and more pleasant the experience will be. Because you're creating room, creating a safe space for that sensation to be there for whatever it is, no matter what it is, even if it's like a super strong tightness or contraction of any degree. I'll say, right, so, but there's also this piece of attunement to your true nature. And it's hard to say because you're commenting, like, I feel like a certain degree of spiritual insight is valuable to really know what I'm talking about here. So I don't know where you're at with this, if you know what I mean when I say rest as awareness. But there's that middle ground where you can rest as that presence of being, as you attune to like the gap between thoughts. And you just rest as that. It has a certain quality to it, that experience. It's like a spacious quality, a warmth to it, a sense of like unconditional love. It can handle when you're in that place. Anything and everything that arises can be accommodated. So there's like a certain degree of warmth to it. You get the embodied sense of who and what you truly are. It isn't your thoughts. It isn't your bodily sensations. It isn't that tightness in your, or that squirmy butterflying sensation in your gut. And as I said, that has a quality of like warmth to it. So you can just welcome that in and see if you can allow that to infuse. Don't artificially create it, but see if you can just attune to it naturally. Like you don't want to infuse this like mental label of it being all lovey-dovey sensation or anything like that. See if you can actually connect to that quality of release, of warmth, of expanse. while infusing your attention into the sensation itself. That might help. If you can't connect to that, if that sounds pretty wild or just isn't landing at all, I totally get that. I would want to work with you one-on-one or something to do this sort of investigation, but here we are. Yeah, that balance, right? It's almost like a decision. You choose to, because when we're in a like triggering situation, let's say we're having a conversation, we have social anxiety, we start speaking to somebody, and if we've done a lot of trauma work, like some gentleman said earlier, I can't remember which one of you guys it was. Anyway, if you go into a conversation with somebody, you're having a conversation, right? You might get a bodily contraction. So like having a conversation with somebody, and the attunement is to rest as awareness or something, right? And as we do that, okay, I'm going to rest as awareness. It's like we're speaking with somebody, and then a certain conditioning gets activated in the body. Might be like a tightness in the neck, maybe a tightness in the chest. And because it's if we have like really strong social anxiety or something like that, there's a real strong magnetism to want to have attention to move into that sensation. It's super strong. And it can be frustrating because then we go into a spiral of like rumination about like, oh, I should be beyond this. I should be able to handle this. I'm beyond this, yada, yada, yada. So that balance of being like, yes, these sensations, these thoughts are not who and what I am, but there's also this like very real felt sense of emotional contraction wherever it is in the body. So can I choose to be in the light, into the warmth, into the release, while still appreciating and holding lightly while tuning to the sensations, those that sensation quality, as to not spiritually bypass and just like dissociate from it completely, but also have this acknowledgement that we can choose to let go. We can choose to not have those sensations, beliefs, and thoughts define us. Because if we do that, there's a certain quality of like appreciate, like, what do you say, like familiarity to that. It's familiar to be like falling into a pattern of contraction. It's safer that way. The nervous system knows it well, so it's going to fall into that groove if it can. But the more that we know who and what we truly are, then that groove starts dissolving. And a new groove, or like, it's not even a groove, it's like I don't know, you can't even put parameters on it. Starts to form where, yeah. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for the tips, man. I'll try first to build that comfortable capacity with these bodily sensations. It's a good idea. Start where you're at. I'm unwell and I have no proper help up to me to forge a recovery, and it's been this way for years. I'm 23. I'm now in an autopilot of just stumbling on. I can't stop and rest, but I tend to just go on even though my efforts are so fragmented. Yeah, okay, I hear you, man. I go this way, that way. I can't commit to anything. I can't seem to bring all my energy into recovery, and I'm thwarted, putting too much on myself, but I can't stop. I'm worried if I stop, the healing stuff could go on, and that wouldn't be good. Symptoms don't give you rest either. I've stopped journaling. I've become superficial. I am a caricature of myself. Yeah. Sometimes shout no or just break down. It's a deep unconscious. But yeah, I feel like my life is passing me by. Oh man. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, just be with that. You can just rest in your body with that acknowledgement. Maybe there's a sense of helplessness. Just connect to that right now. Just, what are you feeling right now? I know, I get it. I really hear you. Such a deep unconsciousness. I'm alien to myself, stranger to myself, and fragmented. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, man. It'd be good to have an actual conversation with you, I think. Like this sort of stuff is. What I can suggest, if there's a lot of pain, if there's a lot of experience, it's okay to get help. Can't commit to anything. Yeah. Right, because that's what especially as a young man, right? So this is something I sort of relate to. I don't know the degree of it in your experience, but for a young man, I'm sure you watch YouTube. Obviously, you're attuned to this content here, so you probably are watching a slew of other spiritual people. And as a young man, you're trying to reconcile building a foundation for yourself while maturing spiritually, right? So I'm assuming here that you watch like spiritual videos and stuff. And in the background, we've accrued a lot of beliefs about what it means to be a man up until this point. So I think from 20 to 30 is probably one of the most challenging times for men lately. Honestly, I don't know, but men and women of all different ages struggle. But I can speak to this from direct experience because I'm a young man myself. I'm 26, almost 27, right? So there's you can watch videos on YouTube that subtly accrue through your life, like people like Andrew Tate, yeah, or like here's how to become a man. Like I went through that phase, right? So I've got like Jocko, Jordan Peterson, all these people, and what that does is it conditions into you a certain set of beliefs about how you need to be as a man. This is my take on it, right? So, I've seen through men's work, right? I did a lot of men's work, so circling with men and groups. So these problems are universal, and it's just not talked about. And there's a lot of internalized shame around it. I think, like, so it's really good to have community with this sort of stuff. If you can connect yourself to a community in whatever shape, way, or form, if it's a practical men's group or if it's an online community of any degree, that's perfect. But I think what is super valuable here is it's okay to go easy on yourself, because the more that you just rest in stillness and the more that you abide in who and what you are, and just attune to like you can ask yourself questions like what is it that I want? What do I actually want? If I step outside of all of that matrix of belief that I've accrued in my life, and there's going to be bodily contraction and pain and uncomfortability, but what do I actually want in this life? How do I want to live, right? Let that come up from your intuition. Don't let it come from anyone else. Yeah? That takes sitting in silence, making intentional time for yourself. Have you ever tried anything like that? You've tried journaling though. Okay, you said not silence. Yeah, that's where the money happens, my friend. Just sitting in silence, being very intentional about it, putting away your phone, putting away YouTube videos, and just asking those sorts of questions, like really calming your mind and being in that place of stillness. What is it that I want? Not what David Goggins says I should do, not what Andrew Tate says what I should do, not what Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, not even what some spiritual teachers say. What is my truth? Right? And then there's also this piece of being gentle on yourself. The more that you rest as source, as who and what you are in silence, just set the intention to yourself that, like, hey, whatever the next deeply instinctually aligned thing is to move toward what it is that I want, I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to force that to happen. But I now have an idea of what it is that I want to work toward based on my deepest truth and instinct. So I'm not going to let anyone else tell me. And I'm going to stand deeply in my truth of what it means to live, and follow that deep instinct with faith that the next thing, so it's like, okay, I'm going to relax back. What is the next thing that comes to me to do? What is the most instinctually aligned thing for me to do next? And then just take that step. Don't second guess. If you do second guess, be gentle on yourself, and then just return to silence until that next impulse to move into, there you go, sort out my sleeping pattern. Okay, cool. Do it, man. What commitment can you make to yourself? And just be gentle on yourself, right? So I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep tonight or something like that. See what happens when you do that. And then you know what? You wake up the next morning, you're listening in silence to your deepest impulse, your deepest instinct again. And then you take that next step. Maybe it's today, it is applying for a job. Maybe today it's just like sorting out, cleaning my house, cleaning my room. What is my deepest impulse? What is my deepest heart's yearning, my deepest instinct? Just take that next step, take that next step, take that next step. And noticing that the fact that you are trusting your deepest instinct from a place of silence, not based on the beliefs of other people, while still being receptive to feedback, of course. But if you've been receiving feedback your whole life and that hasn't been working out for you, then I think, there's a recalibration into your own deepest instinct, impulse. Then just do that. And just be gentle on yourself. Where we get caught is, I think, in doubt. Like, is this the right path? Is this the wrong path? But like when you're living in accordance with what's true for you, deeply true for you, and you have a sense of fearlessness around that too, then it's just like, man, even if I make the wrong decision, I'm still following what's true for me, and I'm going to learn all the lessons and things that come along for me. So this is like that bridging into the relative world, right? Because we can lean on spiritual concepts, I think, a lot, like, and really hope that they're going to save us. And that can come with it a sense of like second guessing and doubt and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, and then when you start doubting that instinct, then that's when you get tied up in it, because it's like, okay, I can't even trust my instinct. But it's just start small, start simple, and just take the next step. You can even ask yourself, yeah, I'm glad it's helpful. I see you said this is helpful. You could just say, like, what is the next step? And then just sit in silence. Literally, this could be a practical thing. What is the next step? Sit in silence. Don't distract yourself, and just let that impulse come. Let that instinct come. Not based on like what your parents think of you, what you need to be. Not fuck all that shit. Like what is for you? Like what is true for you? And then you see that as you build that, you said build that self-trust. And you probably know a lot of this stuff, man. So I'm probably already telling you stuff that you've already heard, but I would just encourage you to take that next step. Trust it. Even if it doesn't feel right, you should just trust your intuition, says Stephen. Yeah, I think so. Well, like, what do you mean by it doesn't feel right? Because if you're trusting your intuition, it probably feels right deep down at some level. So, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that, my friend. Maybe if it doesn't feel right, do you mean like if it's going to have some backlash or something, like say like your intuition is to stand up to your boss or something, and there's a lot of fear, and then you take that step to do that? Like, is that what you mean? Giuliano, hey man, good to see you. I'm keen to meet up with you, dude. Let me just respond to this previous. So I just want to be out of this reactive state. No matter what happens, I'm tired of being in this state. Yeah, let me just, man. I need conscious response, commitment, and choice, rather than enslavement, inertia, and reactivity. Yeah, I know what you mean. I hear, man. But do you see, like, okay, so a lot of what you just said there, I need conscious response, commitment, and choice. It's like, yes, but a lot of that is like, what that's doing is it's putting your life in this big timeline of how much of a fuck up you are. To put it bluntly, it's like, man, I've just been so unconscious for so, I just can't get anywhere. There's so much like, there's just so much like buy into that. Like, okay, this is just how I am, right? I don't take action. I'm the guy that doesn't take action, even though that I've done all this spiritual work and like, I'm just stuck. It's like, you see how like that simplicity of just stopping, pausing, and just being in silence and being like, what is my deepest instinct right now? Right now, I'm going to disregard all. Okay, oh, there's a thought coming up that's saying, oh no, this never works for me, and there's that sensation. Okay, let me just like soften. Okay, that can be there. I appreciate that. You can be here, but what's my heart telling me now? Okay, next step. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Not putting anything in time. And I guarantee if you do that for like a day, man, you'll feel so empowered. Even if you do like small things. So it's like being gentle on yourself, but that building of self-trust is just flourishing more and more. So like, yeah, I would invite you, see what happens if you do that for a week. What's 1 week for the rest of your life? Right? Like, far out, man. Yeah. Giuliano, hey bro, how do you deal with the non-dual path in a line of work like support work? Oh man, yeah, good question. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you how. I quit my job as a support worker about a month ago, 2 months ago, like out of instinct. But I know that it was quite challenging for me. I'm not going to lie to you, you know, like with a lot of conditioning, this body is very sensitive. I'm very sensitive body mind. So, man, I remember. Well, how about I ask you this? Like, so what do you specifically mean? So, like, how do you deal with a non-dual path? It's quite a vague question. So, like, is there anything specific that's like coming up for you that you're curious about? You know, like how that's working out for you, or any challenges? Because I assume that question comes from a curiosity for some sort of challenge you're coming up with, or maybe not. Yeah, maybe if you could be more specific with that, that would be awesome. So I can talk about sensitivity and like how I used to, you know, working with disability. There was a lot of challenges there for sure, but it also helped me with letting go of judgment toward people with disabilities or like other people when I'm working with them, right? Because it's converging so deeply into immediacy. And the sensory experience is so alive in the 5 senses or 6 senses. Right, so it's pretty rich for investigation, that's for sure. Being engaged in that role. How much Kino? You said how much TRE do you recommend each day? Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. Like when I first started doing TRE, I was doing it with Chris Command, and I jumped right on the bandwagon. And like, I really wanted to take it deep. I really wanted to do it very seriously because I felt the benefit of it almost immediately, releasing tension in the body. So yeah, I got really deep into doing it, and I would do sessions like twice a day, you know, for like 20 to 30 minutes. And what I noticed was that it really it actually dysregulated my nervous system because I was releasing, there was so much being released in the body that it felt like almost I was hyper caffeinated was the sensation, right? There's like a hyper caffeinated feeling of doing TRE for too much. Too much was being released into the nervous system. And it was painful. Like, so what I had to then learn was from the advice of Chris as well, was to dial that back. Like, the recommendation, generally speaking, is 15 minutes to start, max per day. I think like 3 days a week, don't quote me on that, is like generally a good place to start. But then also, while you're doing it, listen to your body and attune to your body. Like, what's your body saying to you? Is it saying like, okay, that was a bit dysregulating, I tried 15 minutes today and it was too much? Then you can dial it back. But if it's like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good, I can do more, then do more, you know? It's like, it's listening to your instinct, but you could start with that baseline of 15 minutes. That's a good place to start. Okay. And Jamal Fateh said, what are your thoughts on The Secret? Always stay clear, more into rational self-inquiry work. I haven't read The Secret. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have much to say about that, Jamal Fateh, so I wouldn't be able to. Yeah, you said, going into silence, connect to my deepest self and ask, what's the next step? Stay loyal to what comes up and follow through to myself. Build self-trust and see where I am this next time. Yeah, sounds good, man. That sounds like a pretty good action plan. And I would just also add, be gentle on yourself. Like, if you say, okay, I'm going to take the next step, and then you doubt yourself and then you don't take action, okay, cool. That's what happened. That's awesome. I'm going to have compassion for myself, and I'm going to soften in, and I'm going to take the next step. What is the next step for me? Why not, right? What's the alternative? That you beat yourself on the back with 50 lashes and buy into a story that's no longer serving you, that you're the one who doesn't take action? Like, what's the point of that? And I know that it's easy to say that, and the bodily contractions will make that feel very real. So maybe the next step is just to get up and do some like intuitive dance and shake that shit out, man. Just let it out and do some stretching. And then you rest back again and you're like, okay, that felt good. What's next? All right, what have we got? Saif Assad, Asatya. That's an awesome name, my friend. It's quite a bit here. Let me just skim read this. Yeah, I found that for some things like talk therapy. Yeah, man, for sure. So you're pretty spot on. Like, so your question was like TRE. If you have high trauma, it's recommended generally that you should seek out a therapist. So if you do have high trauma, yeah, do just that. You know, like that would be the general recommendation. Christina Gamand, I'll link her website. Let me have a look. You can do them online, which is good. I would recommend that you check out Chris Command, and if you have a lot of trauma, like where you're really struggling, you know, complex PTSD or complex trauma, can be a good place to start. But you know, like, yeah, trust your instincts. somebody like Chris would just basically, like, they would provide for you a safe space to, if you did get significantly dysregulated, then you could, she would be a rail guard for you to ground into your body. So if you've historically, like, you've had quite a lot of trauma, and you know, if you just authentically check in with your experience, that okay, if I audit myself, I tend to like be, if I have like panic attacks or something, right? And then you resist experiences when they get really heightened, then you probably want to have that support. But if you feel like, okay, I've got pretty good capacity and I can just be with experience and it's fine, even if I get a heightened sensate experience, which can happen with like TRE, like you might tremor, and then a certain quality of pain comes up that your mind wants to resist, and you get thrust into this spiral. Then yeah, get help. But if you have that capacity, then maybe you could just try a self-guided course online. There's also a free, I'll link you a free TRE course as well, which is what I did initially as well. And this one's really good. This guy, I've actually interviewed Richmond Heath. I got to still upload the interview. Richmond Heath, there's this free course online, and it's really good. I would recommend it. He introduces you to it in a safe way, and they do a screening test, so you could try the screening test. If you don't pass it, then maybe get a help from a facilitator. That'd be a good way to gauge. So that's trecourse.com. So Jamofati, my man, you said this has been really helpful. I think another step would be to go into the physical and spiritual away from the world of concept. Mind, ego, present, somatic, experiencing a lot of physical work. Sounds like a plan. Cool, man. Yeah, you're already getting some things that you could do. So a lot of thoughts are entering your mind on all of these things that you could do. So I would also just suggest, like, be mindful of that, right? So like, you might, what if you just did one of those and just took the next step into doing that? Because like the mind can throw up all these things and you get overwhelmed with that. So in the very next moment, right? And then just, yeah, that's my suggestion. So Giuliano, he said, just notice how much we need our ego to work in a job like support work. What helped you manage the intense moments with clients and staff? Yeah. Did you work? I'll just finish your quote. Did your work with awakening from with the non-dual path help or make it more confusing? I'm confused the more I tap into the non-dual state. Yeah. Yeah, man. I think setting healthy boundaries from an instinctual place is helpful. Like, I remember I was in environments where there was so many people, and I was actually getting quite dysregulated myself. So no matter how much belief work or investigation work that I did, it was still quite challenging for me, right? So I had to set practical boundaries, and then ask to be situated in places that are a bit more chill. And I used to perceive of that as a weakness of some degree. I used to perceive that as I should be doing better. But I think that, like that instinctual trust, and when you start just getting honest with what you need and forego how a spiritual person should be, right? Because you can have these like ideas of like, I'm a non-dual meditator, or like I should be beyond reactivity in this situation by now, or something like that. But it's like, what if you just authentically meet yourself where you're at, right? Maybe that's to take it slow, to dial it back. But I also think, attuning to your instinct as well, and that will inform an authentic way of relating with staff and other people like that too, right? Like, there were moments when dealing with other staff members and stuff where like they would say things that didn't align with me, and my instinct was like, don't say it, man, don't say it. I mean, well, it was like my ego, you could say, it was like, don't say it, don't say it. And then my instinct was like, nah, bro, you're gonna say it. And I just do it, and what comes of it is what comes of it, you know. So yeah, it's tricky. I think just attuning to your instinct is really helpful. That's what I've found to be helpful. Hey? Stephen, you said, is Kundalini something we should seek to achieve in life? Man, I don't know. Hey, I don't seek it. My experience has been that it just arises for me. It rises to me, and I just be with it. You know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to say on Kundalini. I don't. I know there's like whole schools that are almost like dedicated to it. To me, Kundalini is a heightened energy. It's nice to have an awareness around it. It's. I also think that some traditions say it's like you're trying to activate this like Kundalini complex in your spine or something, and then it moves up, and then I don't know, like moves up your spine, and then you have this explosive experience. I don't really know. The way that I look at Kundalini, I understand Kundalini is it's like you know, your rest in beingness as who and what you are, and then natural things arise. Energy arises in the body, and we don't have to turn that into anything special through the non-duality lens. It's just another arising phenomena in experience, just like a fart. It's like a somatic fart. Like, who cares, right? Like, what if yeah, I guess that's how I look at it. Thanks, brother. Have you had the awakening Angelo Dilullo scribes? My psychedelic use has made it hard as I am experiencing the grand awakening. Yeah, there's definitely been a shift in identity here where there's just that deep, undeniable, self-affirming knowing of who and what I am. And there's like a I don't know, like sensations and non-dual insight as well that comes through that. So I would say so, yeah. It was never really a big shift or grand event for me though. It's just there's this just like knowing that, oh yeah, I am. Like I'm not separated in this body or mind. It wasn't that like this huge blown out experience, and it just seemed to like creep through in a gradual way. Just like, yeah, you know, as soon as I attune to it, like if I it's weird, I can look at myself right now in the live stream mirror, and it's just like, what the fuck, like I'm here and I'm there, but I'm not, but I am. um it's so weird. It's like I'm in my head but I'm not, but it's so ordinary and it's always been this way. um or like, you know, just softening and like looking out, and there's just like that tree is definitely not separate from me. But yeah. I guess that's my direct experience right now. So it's fascinating, right? It's like who and what we take ourselves to be is it's amazing the magic show that the ego plays, the tricks it plays to keep us in this sense of a separate self that's separate from everything. And yeah. Do you have a Goodreads? No, I don't. Is that a book list recommendation or something? Is it? I do not know. I have a website where I have a list of recommended teachers and books, though. That I'll link that to you if you want. Let's have a look. Teachers and books. There you go. Let me link it to you. This is fun, guys. Like I really like. Man, I love just it's a different modality, a different format to do lives, and it's just so much more natural. Yeah, it's nice though. It's really nice to be here. How long do you meditate a day? Dude, yeah, good question. I mean, I do probably like lately it's been like an hour in the morning, but I just feel like I'm always meditating now. There's like no distinction between practice and daily life anymore, right? Like inquiry is like every moment is so formally probably like an average of an hour a day lately. Like I just my routine, if you could call it a routine lately this morning, has been just to like get up and go outside and just sit in silence and just be, for like an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe like an hour and a half even. But yeah. And then at nighttime, sometimes I'll just like finish up for the day, and I notice my mind's like, go watch Netflix or something. And I'm like, but why? Why don't I just sit in infinity? Why don't I just sit in the void and just abide there? Like, why the hell not? And just be curious about this experience. So sometimes it's like 30 minutes, or I just follow that impulse a lot more now. And like generally speaking, practices like just daily life, that makes sense. Like as I've been on this call, there's been attunement to the bodily sensations. Like there's been attunement to like who and what I am, and that doesn't stop, right? It's just like in every moment. I think that's like how can we bring it into every moment? How can we? Yeah, I've heard that term, practice enlightenment, which is really it's a good way to put it. Yeah. So good to be here with everyone. Do I always ask who am I throughout the day? Not really, man. No, it just seems to happen spontaneously. I love that. The question "Who am I?" just takes you right into the pith of the experience of I amness, though. When it's like when you learn to just do it correctly. So sometimes it's not even like asking the question "Who am I?" It's just like knowing where that question points to energetically, and then just abiding in that space. So it's just like who. It's just right there. It's just right there. Or not even asking a question of who. It's like just, oh, there it is. Let me just be with that. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's interesting. What's your practice look like, Giuliano? Are you meditating a lot? I know you went to India. It's right in the name of your channel. What's this? Safe? What's what's in the name of my channel? Oh yeah. Okay, man. Hey Joe. Hey man. Have I tried the Sedona method? Yeah, I think so. I think it's come up in my practice. It's essentially where you just like intone an emotion or an event that arose in your life, right? That triggered you, and it's just like focusing in on the sensations that triggered you, and then just feeling them very deeply. Isn't it also asking questions, or is this Byron Katie, where it's like, can I let it go? Is this something I can let go? Is that Sedona method? But I often, a big part of the emotional processing piece for me has been the attunement to, yeah, okay, yeah. So bringing up a sensation and feeling it deeply, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's like one of the main things that I do with people as well with somatic inquiry. Although I don't know if I go a little bit more technical with it, I think. So there's the feeling, there's obviously the feeling of the emotion itself, which is a very powerful practice. But you can also inquire into those emotions to help that emotional release a little bit more fully and deeply as well, I found. Giuliano, you got sick in India. Oh, dude, far out. And the ashrams get too political. Yeah, wow. Yeah, dude. I think the best monastery is daily life. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, that sucks you got sick though, but maybe it happened for a reason, right? That's how it had to go. God, my voice is cracking here because I've been speaking for so long. It's really firing off here. Mm. With anxiety, do you find your eyes narrowing? I tend to get that, and I can't go back to that holistic viewing with no importance on anything such as eye contact or another person. Yeah, I mean, anxiety. So eyes narrowing. Not sure what you mean by that specifically. I'm curious as to. So if you're talking about dissociation, that's a common thing with social anxiety. It can feel like you're funneling in on a like a glass pane comes up in front of you when you're speaking with someone, and it's a way that our mind shuts off to not feel the uncomfortable sensation. So it feels like we're kind of numbed out, or something just isn't quite right. So maybe that's what you're describing. So yeah, that's pretty typical of dissociation, which is, it's not abnormal. Our mind's actually designed to do it when we're experiencing uncomfortable sensations. Yeah, so I've definitely experienced that because I've been through quite a bit of social anxiety and these sorts of things. So I would say, I don't know if like I'm relating to your experience, and when you say eye narrowing though, I don't know if that's in aligned. Yeah, I'm curious what you mean by that. Jason, hey man, hello, good morning. Yeah, you said morning, Sam. Currently, I'm going through a really stressful time for the last 2 months. I find it the most difficult to do any shadow work since I keep subconsciously distracting myself. Any advice? Yeah, okay, I hear you. Yeah, that experience of like subconsciously distracting yourself implies to me that there's yeah, subconsciously distracting yourself. Yeah, well, I guess there comes a point where you just subconsciously distract yourself enough times where you just hit a wall with that, and you realize how much pain it's costing you, how much it's costing you to do that, and you feel that energetically, right? So when you're distracting yourself, whether it's through porn, whether it's through like watching YouTube, whether it's watching Netflix, whatever it is, maybe you could attune and just in small ways. Like if you do distract yourself, so be it. Like so that's just what's happening now. And when you as soon as you notice, you might just like catch yourself when you're in the midst of the distraction, like how am I actually feeling, right? Because sometimes that distraction, it's so like strong, right? The emotion is so uncomfortable that you just want to say fuck it. Like I'm just going to distract myself and I'm just going to eat 10 cookies, or I'm just going to like watch YouTube or whatever, right? And it's just like this is where I love Buddhism. I love deities. They've become sort of in my awareness lately, like because Buddhists were smart, man. Buddhists are smart. There's like these certain depictions of deities, right? Some deities are all loving and all compassionate, like Green Tara, right? She is unconditionally loving. You can call upon her at any moment, and she will hold everything in your experience. So you imagine this like calling for help when you're really struggling, right? You can call upon Green Tara, and you don't have to do this, but I kind of want to talk about it because why not? But then there's other deities that they cut through the bullshit. They've got a sword that cuts through delusion, and there's this one deity, I can't remember the name of it, but it has the finger of emptiness. So it perceives emptiness in all things, but it also has a sword that cuts through delusion. So it's like when you're in that moment, when you're subconsciously distracting yourself, can you call upon that energy? That energy of just like, I'm going to cut through this, right? Every time leading up to this moment, I've distracted myself, but not this time. I'm going to call upon that energy to just cut into that, and just be with it, right? Can you just be with that sensation of like what? Because underneath that tendency to just distract ourselves is an uncomfortable sensation. So can we just put our attention for like 3 minutes? Just pause the YouTube video, pause the like grabbing your phone, throw that shit away. Just grab that phone. If you're watching YouTube, you're distracting yourself. You're like, yeah, I'm feeling so uncomfortable. Just literally just throw it. Just get rid of it. I'm like, okay, I'm cutting. Okay, I'm just gonna be with sensations. Just gonna breathe into these sensations. It's like, what do I feel? What is happening? What is here? And just breathe. See how deeply attention can then shift into the body. So what is the most uncomfortable sensation that I can just hold right now with so much love and attention? And just give it all of my attention, all of my faculty of attention. It's the only thing in the whole universe, with that sense of like loving curiosity. What is this? Wow. You can see how it's so strong. It just really wants to get me away from this experience. I just really need to get away, And maybe you can do that for 3 minutes. Maybe you can just do that for 3 minutes or 1 minute or 30 seconds. And then just have that, okay, you know what? I'm going to distract myself again after that. So if that happens, so be it. But I'm going to just take that little intervention and just show my nervous system that I actually do have the capacity to feel it. Yeah. And it sounds like you're doing shadow work, I think you said. So you said, thanks, I'm going to certainly try, because you're right. I'm definitely trying to avoid the sensations. And yes, I've definitely hit a wall, hence why I asked you for some advice. Yeah, just be gentle on yourself, but have the instinct and the discernment to know when. Know when you need to call upon other energies. Okay, Jamal Fati, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep. You said it's late. I'm in the UK. Oh, dude, I appreciate you being here. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you, man. And just be gentle on yourself, brother. Take that next step. And yeah, like you're in a good place. Yeah, so nice for you to be here. Appreciate you dropping in. Yeah, more on distraction. Yeah, because like I know, man, like that force when you're really feeling a lot of pain is really challenging, right? I wonder if there's anything else I can say to that from experience. A really good recommendation that Violet Synergy, Angelo Dilullo's partner, who was when I was, I remember she had this really good recommendation, and it was to, when you're feeling distraction, that tendency to want to distract, you can set an alarm on your phone. Literally be like, hey Siri, set an alarm for 5 minutes. It's probably going to actually set an alarm. Maybe it will. Maybe the phone's on the floor over there. Set an alarm for 5 minutes. And you could just attune to that. And then, okay, in this 5 minutes, I'm going to be completely with sensation right now. I'm going to feel into it very deeply in a meaningful way. And then, you know what? After that 5 minutes is up, I'm going to give myself permission to distract myself if I need to. But in that 5 minutes, I'm going to give it my all. And I would invite in that 5 minutes, while you're doing that, see if you can let go of like the concept of time as well. Let go of past and future. Let go of you having the history of like, I always distract myself, yada, 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 whatever the mind says, whatever its familiar patterns say. And then See how much you can attune to the immediacy. Yeah, the immediacy of unknowing. And just be with that. Like, strip away the narratives. Just be with the raw sense. Yeah. So Giuliano, he said, "Have you had any astral or out of body experiences?" Not really, honestly. I don't know. I don't think I've had quite much at all. No, my attunement has always been quite raw and nitty gritty, down to earth. You know, I've never really had any like deep, like blown out psychedelic visionary experiences where like I get this like divine download or I'm in like another plane of existence or anything like that. Um, I've definitely had like very deep presence and meditative experiences, but like yeah, for me this path has been just finding the absolute mystery in the mundane things. I think like in the feeling of my foot on the ground. Like, man, I was just walking around the block last night on this cement path, and oh my god, just the feeling of the sensation of my feet on the ground, like the feeling of rocks pushing into my foot. That was like ecstasy. It was like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like when you're letting it, especially with a non-dual immersion into the experience, when that's the only thing in the whole universe, it's like, wow, man, it's just so fascinating. So, yeah, I think that's what I'd say to that. He said, Stephen, do you think Jesus and Buddha were the same people? They both wanted people to awaken. I think so, man. I think so. I went to a Christian gathering recently, actually, because I was seeking community. I took 2 weeks off, working with clients and somatic inquiry and stuff, and I went out to a Christian gathering because I wanted community. I reached out to a mate who I knew was Christian, and I thought, like, I'm sure Christians are pretty grounded people. They're pretty wholesome. They've got a degree of faith, and there's quite a few of them. So I might as well see if there's any groups out there. And I went to this, like, he's like, my mate said, oh, well, just so happens there's a 3-day weekend. And it was the most bizarre weekend, man. Like, it was bizarre. But it was beautiful being there, right? Because it was a mass celebration of faith. It was over 3 days. It was like a Jesus 3-day weekend revival thing, I think it was called. And just the collective celebration of Jesus Christ, right? You could feel the presence of it, which is what I found to be the important piece. Like, they were using Jesus as the language, like we give ourselves to Jesus, we devote ourselves to Jesus. But for me, that's just like, I feel that presence in my being. He's right. It's like right here, right now. And it's beautiful that we have all this language, and it's genius. Like the Bible and these sorts of things are freaking genius. They all point to, from my experience, what I know. And I know Christians, devout Christians, would disagree because they would say that anything other than Jesus is a false god or it's not the right way. But I don't know. It's not been my experience. So I think what the Buddha and Jesus pointed to, absolutely, they're the same thing. Yeah, I think so. So cool. I'm just chilling with 5 people from around the world right now. This is awesome, man. Can you touch on letting go of an unwanted sensation, emotion in terms of feeling it? Since most people are avoiding this or adding it to the shadow, if I'm not mistaken. So let's read that again so I'm clear. So can you touch on letting go of an unwanted sensation? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Emotion in terms of feeling it. I think I understand your question, Jason. Can you maybe word that in a different way, man? I just want to make sure that I understand you. Like, just if you phrase that maybe slightly differently. So you said most people are avoiding this or adding it to the shadow, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand you properly. Love that answer so much, Giuliano. Yeah, it is what I am trying to emulate at this point in my life. Yeah, man, awesome. That's great. Yeah, and it's so ordinary in my experience, right? Like all this spiritual stuff. But who knows? Like I'm so open-minded that like I'm ready to have my mind blown and changed at any moment, right? So I have a degree of like, yeah, okay, I think it's really simple, but who the hell knows? There's complexity, there's simpleness, there's like, yeah, like everything is accounted for. So, but there is definitely like simplicity in just like the foot on the ground. That's the only thing in the whole universe, and how fascinating is that? It's so fulfilling. And I would say, you know, you didn't waste your time, right? Like, and I know, I'm sure you know this, right? Like that was all part of the process to bring you back to simplicity. Like, yeah, I mean, I know what you mean though. Like, I did a lot of men's work and this sort of stuff, and it just felt like, um, just like I don't know, such simplicity, just coming back to the basics of like, you know, like Jesus said, right? Like, if you want to be like if you want the kingdom of heaven, be like little children. Just such innocence and simplicity. All this like third eye, astral projection, psychedelic experiences, they're all like sampling that, and they're a good stepping stone, but then I feel like that has to be let go into back into simplicity. Really appreciate your response earlier, says Saif, about getting started with TRE. Thanks for your whole channel. Yeah, man, no worries. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, I'm just enjoying chilling out here. I didn't really have any expectations of how this was going to go today, but otherwise I'll just sit in being and maybe invite you to do the same. Why not? So Jason, you said, sorry, so I'd like to know if I have uncomfortable sensations coming up. I want to let them go. Okay, so you have uncomfortable sensations coming up that you want to let go of. I don't want to hold on to them, but I struggle to feel them and let go, and so I distract myself. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I get what you mean now. Okay, so you're struggling to feel the uncomfortable sensations. Yeah, yeah, that's good, man. You don't want to hold on to them. Okay, well, that's a good point, right? So with any degree of emotion work, I think a valuable pointer is to keep the door open. Like, have you ever heard the guest house poem by Rumi? I'll link that. I'm gonna link it here. Give me a sec. I'm gonna get into the question. I just want to link it. I'll read it actually. I'm gonna read it. Send. Why are you not send? Oh, you kidding? There's a comment limit, text limit. You're gonna make me break up this message, bloody hell. Okay, there's that. That's part one. That's part two. Oh shit. Why is there a text limit? Let me give me a second. Okay. Honorably. What's after honorably? Shit. There we go. Okay. Okay. And last bit, part three. Almost got it. Okay, all right, I got it. So let me read that. I think that copy pasted properly. So here's the guest house by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. So Jason, these sensations you're talking about. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. I love that bit. Meet them at the door laughing. That's key. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Damn. How good's that? So, a couple things. So, you don't want to feel the sensations, right? So, that's okay. So, what does it feel like to not want to feel the sensations? If you can put your attention in them just that little bit more and be mindful and, like maybe that takes a bit of a masculine approach of, okay, I have this belief that I can't feel these sensations. That's okay. Like, okay, I see that, but then maybe I can just go that little bit further beyond and put my attention right into the sensation to the best of my capacity. And that might be like that sensation might be saying, I can't handle this. And then you can put your attention into what it feels like to not be able to handle it. Where do you feel that in the body? It's like this added layer of resistance of I can't handle this. Right. And when that comes up, you might distract yourself, but then okay, maybe I can just bring it in that little bit more into the sensation. And there's something really amazing that happens when you do that. When you can be with that sense of no, I can't handle this. And you actually just like say, and you speak, this has to come from the heart. What if I can handle this? What if everything that I like, what if I actually do have the capacity to handle sensations? I can handle anything in experience, even the most panic-inducing panic attack, rage, spiraling of helplessness. Okay, while it might be helpful, and you might do this as well. If you really, it can help to build capacity to do basic things like this. So physical touch. This is a really good one. If you feel like you can't handle an experience, give yourself permission to like one arm under your armpit, other hand on the top, and just hold yourself like that. You might even do that right now. Just feel that, right? Feel that and see if you can connect to that warmth in your body. You might breathe, just relax into it. And see how that is a way of resourcing yourself to be able to feel just that little bit deeper. Just that warmth. It's like a biological response. Or you could feel the weight of your body softening into the ground, softening into the chair, the weight of your feet on the ground. You might affirm to yourself, like Tara Brach has this thing of calling upon guardians, which is, it might sound a bit gimmicky or cringe for some people, but if there's a figure like Jesus Christ or a Buddhist deity that you really connect to, who like you really admire, right? And you can't fake this, right? It has to be someone you actually, or maybe like a parent or a father figure or a mother who really showed you warmth in your life. What if you gave that, called upon that person, right? So you're just with them. You imagine them with you, holding you in that experience without you needing to change you in any way. Right? So that's resourcing, finding resource to feel these uncomfortable sensations. And then you'll find within your direct experience that you have the capacity to handle them, where you might not need to resource yourself as much. Yeah. but I still struggle to feel them and let them go, hence I would distract myself. Yeah, man, so it's just about building capacity, being gentle on yourself, and resourcing yourself if you need to. They've done studies on this, right? Like, this isn't just bullshit, like new age stuff. Like, if you're dissociating and your mind's freaking out and you can't ground yourself, like you're really panicked, like, give yourself permission to resource yourself. Right? Because we can have non-dual teachings and these sorts of things where it's like, well, I should just be able to be with whatever's arising, right? And then we can almost like self-attack ourselves with that. But like, that doesn't work. Like, where's the self-compassion? It can get so dry, right? And to a degree, right, there's a balance of this masculine and feminine approach. Like, that's quite a feminine approach, which isn't like to say it's like a female or anything like that, but it's more of like a tender, heartfelt quality. But there's sometimes you can call upon, in certain situations, a more masculine approach if that energy is being very stubborn. Okay, like, I'm just going to be with this, like, as it is. What is this? Like, can I infuse curiosity into this sensation? Yeah, awesome. Oh, Giuliano, thanks, man. Yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, dude, we'll be catching up soon, I imagine. Yeah, maybe next weekend or something, I think. We'll figure something out. I'll respond to your email. I did see you sent one. So, yeah, thanks for being here, dude. Really good to chat with you. We'll talk more. What do you think about sports? There's a lot of competition and it leads to conflict. Stephen, you said. Bad to be involved in sports, or do I need to stop being so competitive? Dude, no, I think it's fine. Yeah, competition, nothing wrong with competition, right? A bit of friendly competition. I guess just as long as how lightly can you hold it, right? Maybe there's a spiritual idea that, like, I need to not be a competitive person. I can't show competitiveness. That's not enlightened or something like that. I would challenge that, right? Why not? If you're taking it really personally, right, and you're competitive and you're like ruminating on the experience and all these sorts of things, maybe you could bring some inquiry into that and question that a little bit. But I don't know, like, I don't think that's a problem to be competitive or have these tendencies, because you can harness that energy of competitiveness to perform better. Yeah, but if you're like using that competitiveness and then taking it out on people and saying like you're a shit person, and like manipulating people and this sort of thing, then yeah, yeah, I don't think it's bad. That's my opinion on that. So JL, I know, sorry, it's been a while since I responded, so let's read your question. You said, I've grown up with this idea that if you feel a negative emotion, that you make it permanent, so you end up wallowing in that negativity always. Yeah, wow, that's okay. Like with depression, if you feel it, then it continues. That's sort of what I talked about at the start of this live. But yeah, is that true? Basically, you said I should have said focus on negative emotions instead of just feeling them. So I'm under the impression that focusing on them makes you permanently wallow in them. Yeah, okay. And to a degree, you can feel that fixation, but you have to discern for yourself, I guess, like where the where you might be fixating, right? So if you're like with a sensation and you're noticing that there's a certain like hook into it that says like it just feels like you're trying to justify its right to be or something, and it's getting you something to do that. So sometimes people like can subtly play, and I don't think they don't choose to do this. It just happens. It's just like an archetypal energy that they've picked up in their life, right? It's sort of like, and it probably comes from like parenting, but it's like if I can wallow in this self-pity, this sadness enough, then somehow and in some way I'm going to get external love for it. So maybe it came through like parenting, when you were really upset as a child and you exuded pain and sadness, mum came to help you, right? Or something like that. So that's sort of in our nervous system. It's like baked into our nervous system to a degree that if I wallow in self-pity or sadness, then I'm going to get something in exchange for that, which can sort of solidify that sadness, right? Rather than just like keeping the door open that it can come, but it can also go. So, and obviously there's a middle way here, so that your instinct kind of can attune to that, I feel like. And you can learn to let that go. But obviously, but there's also that piece of being with the emotion and not avoiding it, because that can then slip into the other direction of spiritual bypass, right? So I think energetically speaking, I'll try my best to describe this, but there's a attunement that can be made where you realize like who and what you truly are at a fundamental level. You realize your true nature as awareness, as presence. And that there's a certain quality to that experience, that as you attune to that presence, your true nature, it's like there's a quality of release to that. It doesn't hold on to anything. It can come and it can go, because like you're not fixating your identity into any narrative or story. So yeah, I think that quality, attuning to that quality, is really valuable while you be with sensation, because that almost has the quality of opening the door to your experience. So rather than an emotion being fixated, you're feeling it deeply, but you're also feeling it through the context of awareness. And that's energetic. You feel that, right? It's like this can come, but it can also go. And that can help discern that like clinging to that experience. But it has to come from sincerity, right? It just really has to come from a sincere place of, am I holding on here? What is that getting me to hold on? If you're noticing that fixation to like get, like mummy love, or that's a kind of like shaming way to put it, but it's not really like, if you feel that victim mindset sort of subtly creeping into that capacity to be with a sensation, then you can sort of like pull that apart a little bit. Like, what is that getting me? What is it getting me to be in that place? And maybe it's getting you safety. Maybe it's getting you familiarity. What would it be like to let that go? Can you let that go? Yeah. But then not negating the emotional experience as well as to bypass it. So yeah, your instinct really knows what's needed. If the more, and that I feel like that attunement just gets better and better in my experience when you're BSing yourself, right? Because the devotion to truth just gets deeper and deeper. It becomes overwhelmingly powerful. Because anything else other than truth just creates suffering, basically. When you're BSing yourself, when you're manipulating yourself, when you're manipulating others to get something in exchange. Yeah. Awesome. Great question, man. Yeah. You said, shit, you may be right. I forgot I used to have that idea in my head as a kid, pretending to be sick or whatever to get attention, love. Yeah, right? And it goes on into adulthood. And we do it in relationships. We do it like all the time in subtle ways. It's a pattern I've seen within myself, so I can only know it by experiencing it, right? So, yeah. Jason, you said JL. I can relate to relate. I got caught myself many times seeking validation for feeling this way. Yeah. So it's a shared collective experience, right? This is an archetype of like victimhood to a degree. And there's like a certain reward we get for that. There's actually like an oxytocin release because we're feeling pain. If we can show like a whimpering dog that we're feeling pain, then somebody is going to support us. But I think a lot of the spiritual path is finding sovereignty within ourselves. So sometimes we need that support, right? So it's not to like throw that out and demonize it. Like I think this whole spiritual thing is like freedom from extremes. This is freedom from any extreme. So if we just like become this solitary hermit who never sees anyone or gets help with anything, it's like, man, we're missing that human, very human connection. But you know, like sometimes if we've can we find that sovereignty, I think is something nice to strive for as well. Stephen, you said, what about combat sports like boxing or MMA? They are bad to watch or participate in. Yeah, I mean, like if your body mind, I feel like if you're naturally attuned to your deepest instinct and presence, if you want to become a combat fighter, and that's the step that your natural impulse is to move toward, and it comes from a place of sincerity, instinct, and integrity to like your instinct, then so be it. Be a combat fighter. There's no right or wrong with this, right? I feel like the more that we are sincere about what our deep motivations are, that instinct to want to attack and fight people and whatever, that might drop away into like a different frequency, which might not be like attacking, or something like that, or whatever. Maybe you have a different job or profession, but maybe like you're just born to be a fighter. Maybe your causes and conditions lined up to be like a boxer or MMA specialist or something, and you're just really good at it. And like that's not separate from any other spiritual experience, like being a bread maker or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong. Yeah, Giuliano, you said, last question. Yeah, man, welcome back. Yeah, dude, I have a list of books I linked before on my website that I found helpful. Let me link it to you here. Give me a sec. There you go. And yeah, JL, no worries, man. I appreciate your question. Yeah, I'm enjoying this, having these conversations. It's really good. There you go, Giuliano. I just linked a thing for you, man, so you can check that out. A bunch of teachers, a bunch of books that I found helpful. There's probably more. I got to add more to that, but I think the WordPress plugin that I was using just didn't allow me to upload more. In New Zealand and millions in the world. Laurent, hello. What is beautiful over there? Bottom line. Man, we've been going for 2 hours. Woo. This is just an impulse to want to do this as well. I don't know. I wanted to try something different today. Just do another live. Probably ended very soon. I'm getting a bit knackered from speaking. And, yeah, maybe I could do some other stuff too. But I'm really enjoying this. I had a big gap today. I don't really have any clients booked in, so I've got a gentleman tonight. But other than that, you know. So Laurent, are you from New Zealand? Yeah, guys, if anyone has any other, if you just want to chat or have any questions, then go for it. But if not, we can just sit in silence. I don't have any agenda here, so silence is the best teacher. You're welcome, Stephen. Thanks for being here, my friend. Really nice to chat with you. Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, no matter what is happening in experience, even if there's like uncomfortability, even if there's energetic contraction of any degree, even if there's whatever's going on, there's always that silence that can be found in just the gaps between thoughts. It's odd how the louder or the more time you spend in that silence, the more that it becomes all pervasive and just accommodates everything. So that silence is like ringing in the uncomfortable sensations, or it's like it's just right there all the time, permeating all of experience, not missing anything, but totally still. Jason, you said, can you talk a bit on intuition and how one could trust the intuition when it comes to making important decisions or just flowing intuitively? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the faith piece, right? Like, there's been a couple moments in my life where I've had to make big decisions based on intuition, like separating from a partner and stuff, and that's come from intuition. And so, my experience with it is it's often, well, sometimes it's not what you want to hear. So, your question was specifically when it comes to making important decisions or just flowing intuitively. Yeah, I think for me, what I'm feeling into lately is we can sort of like hype intuition up as this big thing that's going to radically transform our lives and contribute to this big spiritual shift. If we can just align to our instinct more deeply, then everything will change for the better. But it's like it doesn't have to be this huge thing. So maybe that would be my suggestion. There is it could just look like very small. What is the next step for me to take in the next moment? What is that next step right now, right there to do? Might be like, I'm just going to get up and move my body. Doesn't have to be like, I'm going to quit my job, right? It can be quite simple. So as soon as I feel like we take that huge mental like projection of what we think intuition should look like off our shoulders and just flow with simplicity, and moment to moment we orient to our true nature, which is where I think intuition stems from to the best that we can, right? To our true nature, meaning I guess our who we are between thoughts, or even if you just sit in silence for any moment and you just sit in that stillness, intuition will come to the forefront in the form of stillness. And it feels like it just has this quality of like, I don't know, just intelligence to it. So take that. Yeah, I would suggest to maybe, if you want to flow more with it, take any potential projections you have of what intuition looks like as a very like simple act. You could just sit in presence and then listen for that next impulse to move in a direction that is positive for you, in a direction that you want to move toward. Like, oh, I'm just gonna, I've been putting off this thing, so maybe I'll just do that now. and then moving into the next thing, moving into the next thing, and then not reflecting in time, past and future, like, oh, like buying into our narratives. Intuition goes beyond that, I feel like. It's just like, it's just whatever's here right now. Whatever's happening. Doesn't need to be big. And yeah. All right, Corey. Yeah, Corey Gray. It's nice that you've been in the space here. So thank you, man. Thank you for being here. Really, really nice to have you here. Appreciate you. So flowing intuitively, like, yeah, so when this video ends, or like when we finish up, maybe you could just say, okay, I'm just going to do the next thing that comes to mind. And just, if nothing comes, then just sit and just be easy on yourself, be gentle on yourself. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And as you start trusting that at small levels, I suspect what will happen is that will flow into bigger decisions as well. I know in a previous relationship, like, that intuition was always there. I kept denying it, and then eventually one day it came to a point where that decision had to be made. And intuition, it wasn't what I wanted to, like, the body mind didn't want to do it, but there was some primordial wisdom that came from stillness to just trust that. And I feel like that's a really good place to be. Simplifies things a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I just think that like I've mentioned, that you said, I was just about to ask, would you describe it as impulsive? It would just arise in the moment, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, Jason. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say on it at the moment. Impulsive, yeah, there's something to be said about focus, right? Like, you can just, like, mistake impulse, like, okay, I'm going to go to the cookie from the cookie jar and just eat all the cookies because intuition told me to do it or something, right? It's not really like that. Like, intuition, it's like attuning to, I found in my experience, and I don't know how new agey this is or whatever, but for me, I always just attune with this, like, light intention behind. It's like, what is for the highest good here? And I'm just going to sit in silence and let that emerge. What is for the highest good? It's like, that's the intention. Or, like, you could say, like, for the light, or, like, if I were to move forward in a positive way, right? So you're bringing that intention into stillness, and then you're just listening from a place of unknowing, and then waiting for that impulse to emerge. So you could say it's impulsive. This is what I'm feeling into. So yeah. And maybe that will refine, but you have to be, like, kind of a little bit of discernment there to see, like, okay, am I just going to go, like, my intuition's telling me to watch porn. It's like, all right, well, maybe that's not the highest good, right? Maybe that's not the highest good, or maybe it is. Like, who cares? Like, if you watch porn, no judgment. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, if you don't, maybe it is. Maybe that's your, like, healthy release, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't have any opinion on that. Yeah. My opinion is to let you trust yourself rather than me tell you, prescribe you what to do. Right. Laurent, you said, I came to meditation and spirituality as a way to cope, and it has helped. I would like to try the 10-day Vipassana retreat when I can get away. Nice, man. Awesome. Yeah, Goenka retreats are good. They're a nice way to deepen your practice and to immerse you in a whole different world, right? Retreats are a whole different ballgame. So good for you. I'm glad you get that opportunity. Pretty privileged, right? Like, how lucky are we that we have these retreat settings available, and, like, the Goenka retreats are free as well, and the food's pretty good. Like, the system is pretty good. Yeah, like, why not take advantage of that to undergo the most important investigation that you can, like looking into your own mind. Holy hell. At least that's my opinion, right? Best thing we can do is, like, examine our experience. Voice is getting a bit dry, getting a bit pasty. 2 hours. Getting a bit pasty here. So here's my impulse right now. So intuition-wise, should I stay on this call or should we wrap it up? I think it's time to wrap it up for the highest good. That's my impulse. That's intuition. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you being here. Yeah, it's been fun. Like, and your comments have been awesome. Like, I love this live format and just engaging with people. Yeah, JL, it's been a while, man. Or girl. So I don't know if you're, but yeah, appreciate you all. Maybe we'll do it again sometime soon, and I hope to see you there. Thank you, Laurent. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Guy, okay. All right, JL. Nice, man. Brother, should I say. My man, homie, bruh. Yeah, no, man, I really do appreciate you being here, everyone. And this has been fun. So until next time, guys, adios. All the best. Have a lovely day. Bye.